Hello and welcome to another podcast with Donnie K. It's another Sunday afternoon, the day before Veterans Day tomorrow. I don't know why it took me so long to think about that. So yeah, if you're a veteran or active duty, make sure you get out there and get some free food. But it's also important to think about those who have served in the past and those who currently serve, um, both foreign, especially those that are overseas right now. To thank them and those that have lost their lives and have suffered for the pursuit of freedom in this country. So today, I reached out to my Facebook group or a group of friends, I guess, and kind of asked some topics that they'd like to hear. And I've been thinking about this one quite a bit. This one is about navigating relationships, um, learning when to cut ties and cut people off in your life, and then also self reflection. Maybe sometimes you're the problem and maybe that's why people cut you off. And I've experienced that a lot in my life, and as I get older, realize as I was younger and even still currently somewhat that I have been the problem, and so maybe that's why people cut you off, or maybe it's time to realize that someone that you thought or someone in the past that was in your corner, things change and life happens. So learning when to cut people off is something that we have to look at as we get older, or just in general. I guess some people learn at an early age. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, or fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Type thing. I probably had that backwards. Oh well. Anyways, today again we're talking about when to cut people off. A lot of times in life, we'll have good friends or people that we think are friends, and we'll reach out to them for help, or a shoulder to cry on, or vice versa. I think a lot of times we forget, you know we do need to forgive when someone crosses you, but at the same point in time, forgiveness is different than forgetting. Some people are very cut and dry with this. Again, you you hurt someone one good time and they may cut you off immediately. Other people are more forgiving and may give you the opportunity to, some people just like an abusive relationship, or a bad friendship where someone's always asking you to borrow money or something. You'll just be like, oh no, that's just them. um, but for your own mental health and for your own sanity, for your own growth, a lot of times you have to learn to cut people off. So I think one of the biggest things is that if someone isn't adding value to your life, generally speaking, then it's not to say you have to 100% cut them off cold turkey. But at the end of the day, you have to realize to put boundaries on that relationship. You have to learn to maybe not hit them up. If this person was your best friend 20 years ago, but really doesn't provide a lot of value these days, or vice versa, whoever does the cutting off, maybe that's a good thing for the relationship. Again, these are not easy conversations or thoughts to have in your head, but a lot of the times for peace of mind, again, or growth, you need to learn that if someone consistently doesn't add value or hurts you, that generally speaking, that may be the time to cut them off in the relationship. Again, that could be very eye opening to that person as well. Maybe you're the person that used to hit them up all the time and say, hey, you want to hang out or you want to chat? And then maybe they're just too busy or they really don't want to hang out with you. So after a point in time, you just realize, well, maybe I should stop hitting them up. And at that point in time, that becomes, on them to reach out and try to salvage that relationship. People have to remember that relationships are a two-way street. And I think for a lot of my life, and I'm still learning that, is that um, relationships and discussions are largely transactional. And we've talked about this in one of my previous podcasts. And this is very beneficial, or this is very eye opening again to many people, um, is that relationships are transactional. So that means generally a person is giving and taking. So, if you have a longer conversation and Maybe you're giving advice and they're taking advice, or, it should be a two-way street on both sides. You should not only be the person that is taking from the relationship. Um, if that's the point, then at some point in time, you're going to take too much and overstep your boundaries. And, you know, that is the point in time when you should probably take a step back and try to realize that, wow, maybe I should change my thought pattern and become um, more giving to them and instead of taking. Um, I'll say in the past, especially even still some recently, I'll have a couple beers on the weekend, and it's probably more so in the past, but it still happens. Whenever I had a problem, I'd have a couple beers on the weekend, and I'd call friends that I haven't seen in years. I'd talk to them quite frequently, but I would just complain like "woe is me" type thing. And it was brought to my attention, especially by my wife, that a lot of the time that this is exactly what I'm talking about is I was the person that was taking from the relationship and not adding much value. And over the years, I've noticed that with a lot of people too. Uh, you know, uh, for instance, even in your personal life, your significant other. A lot of times, I'm not a super emotional person, and my wife's a very giving person, and a lot of the time, I guess, I will take more than I give in the relationship, and when she asks me to rub her feet or do something that I think might be trivial, it's good to just do them generally, especially when you're looking at the balance of, you look at like the scale of justice, or the scales, and if you're taking, maybe you're down here and maybe you should be giving to try to equal the scales out. Uh, this is what happens in a lot of relationships. I noticed that over the years, especially. It's crazy that when you start to do better in life, a lot of people will start to ask more of you as far as even monetarily. And if that's the case, that's crazy, right? Because there's a point where you can definitely want to help people out. um, but are they overstepping the boundary where they just think you're like a bank or an ATM machine? Like, you gotta you gotta look at that and really scratch your head and say, like, you've worked hard for where you're at, so I understand helping someone out in a time of need. I've always been like that. But again, if this becomes a relationship about money, or a two-way, a one-sided conversation where you're not really adding any value, or they're not adding any value, maybe that's a point in time to cut that person off. Again, transactional relationships, sometimes we have to look at our side as well, or look at other people's sides, and realize that we're not adding value to their life, or they're not adding value to your life. And if you are a forgiving person, that's not to say, someone hits you up that you haven't talked to in a year, and maybe they're in a hard spot and you really want to help them. You can do that, but again, it doesn't mean that you have to seek that friendship out. Uh, I think too often, even when I've had great relationships with friends, it's like or family, generally speaking, even if I'm, giving in the conversation, or fight or whatever, I would typically reach out to people more than they would reach out to me. Again, I've been gone from Indiana for like 15 years. Actually, it'll be 15 years this month. So in that time span, living around the world, or traveling, or living overseas, you kind of fade in people's eyes. And so, you know, when you're the person that reaches out to them all the time, it becomes that, you're giving and giving and giving, and they're taking, or not even really thinking about you in your life. And that's fine. Things happen, life goes on. Um, Another example that is exactly like that is, like, almost every time I go home to my home state or whatever to visit people, it's like I'm the one traveling. And generally, luckily, my family came down and visited me like a couple weeks ago, and that was awesome. It was awesome to see a lot of people that I hadn't seen in a couple years, and it was awesome that they generally came down to my direction. That's amazing. So I'm so thankful for that. But in the past, it seemed like generally I would come home, and it's like my whole week of what I think is going to be a vacation is 20 people wanting to see you, but you driving to see everyone. Sometimes it was good where we would have like a family picnic, or not family picnic, but maybe a barbecue or something, and you could see a bunch of people all at once. But in general, when you go home, it's like, especially when you're in the military and you go home, people still have their jobs and people have their lives. So you're the one that left. So um, I don't expect everyone to drop everything that they do and, uh, you know, open up space. Most of the time it did happen, but a lot of the time it was, you reaching out to those people, or people missing you and saying, hey, why didn't you see me when you're home? And you're like, well, you didn't reach out to me. So uh, anytime you take vacation, honestly, you got to think about it. And vacation is for typically relaxation or travel. Sometimes it seems like a chore to go home. Like, um, but it's always good to see people that you love, especially when, again, that transactional relationship is good. Transactional relationships where you're both giving and taking equally is definitely a way to build a healthier relationship. And again, I'll just throw it out. This is something I'm still learning at almost 40 years old. Is that I was definitely a person that took more in a relationship than I gave. And uh, even when I would give in a conversation, sometimes it wasn't even warranted or wanted. If people call and they're just talking about their problems, uh, wait for them to ask you for help because, they might just want to voice their opinion and be heard. I would, I would always go on rants and, act like I know how to fix people's problems. When generally speaking, even in the life coach training that I completed, so technically I'm a certified life coach. I don't think I'm there yet. So that's kind of why I like doing this podcast, just to get some thoughts out. But you have to learn to help people help themselves. So it's just like, give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. Teach him to fish, he'll eat forever. That's the thing, is a lot of people, including myself. I'm not by no means perfect. But if you always help people solve their problems, then they'll never learn to solve them for themselves. And so that's actually one of the biggest things in life coaching, is that you're not a therapist. You don't tell people, you know, well, I think that, you help them really. I mean, you can kind of help with the planning, but overall it's to help a person figure out how to solve their own problems. Because in life, that's the biggest thing. The only person you can truly count on is yourself. Oftentimes we get blessed with people that we can rely on, but again, self-sufficiency is huge. So we need to help people, but generally speaking, again, help when it's asked for. Again, a lot of people might not want to hear your BS. What works for me may not work for you. So, um, whatever path that person wants to take, again, we have to, even when we're trying to give in a transactional relationship or communication or any of that thing, we need to probably actively listen more than speak. And again, sometimes, just like now, I'll go on a rant and I think that I know better than that person, but I'm really not in their shoes. So I'll never actually know if that will work for them. So at the end of the day, that's a good thing to let them make their own decisions. Um, when we learn to cut people off, we have to remember that, um, again, if someone, and it's not even to be bad, it's not even to be mean. It's generally speaking for your own mental health, and maybe for other people's mental health. That, if you're in I don't know, a cycle of destruction, maybe in a relationship, or like a intimate relationship or something, and learning to cut those people off is like sometimes breaking a cycle of negativity that, a lot of the times people will go back and forth and realize that you're not really going anywhere. So you also have to remember that when you're in these kind of situations, that people are only going to change when they want to change. So a big part of me doing podcasts is, to realize, hopefully this will help other people, but honestly, a lot of it's just to help myself. If you put thoughts either on paper or in the air, especially when it's on YouTube, because you can go back and, look at it years later and say, wow, that was good, or wow, that was bad. But either way, at least you're putting it out there, versus compartmentalizing it and, doing nothing with it. I kind of got off topic, but when we look at how we grow as a person, we have to remember that we're largely influenced by um, the top 5 people in our lives. So the people that you interact with the most are generally the people that are going to influence you the most in life. And I think my point to that is you want those people in your life that are going to add value and that you're going to add value to theirs. When I talk to friends about, business ideas or, how their life's going or travel or, lifting weights and trying to get into shape or, just in general, hey, again, how are you doing? Those people that actually care to help you out or that want to speak to you or see your vision or you can bounce ideas off of, and again, it shouldn't be one-sided. It should definitely be people that are interested in talking to you as well. So when you get those kind of people and they're actually trying to do things in their life, not just sitting around complaining, again, I've had times where a lot of times, especially when I was getting out of the Air Force, that it was kind of just that woe is me mentality, and it would just be calling to complain to people. But I think my mentality and a lot of things have changed since then. So I really don't have uh, a lot to complain about right now. So I got to remember that too. But getting back to the topic is when you are looking at when you have to make that tough decision to do what's best for you. Um, Look for 5 people or 3 people or whatever you want in your inner circle that are generally gonna help you become a better person. Reach your goals. Uh, Listen to you and maybe not rant about what you should do, but again, maybe someone will teach you to fish, and then you can eat forever. But anyways, this is my Sunday podcast. It was navigating relationships, when to cut people off, and self-reflection when you are the problem. So again, I want to keep this short and sweet. I look at putting out, I'm looking at putting out some more videos in the near future. I have some people that want to be guests, but generally speaking, I don't. Our timings don't always line up, and I've been pretty busy at work, traveling next week, so that'll be fun. But if this resonated with you or anything, please give me a subscribe or a thumbs up, and maybe a comment. What topics you would like to learn more about, or maybe if you'd like to be a guest. I don't know. Maybe you want to tell your story. Anyhow, have a great weekend or a great week. Thanks. Bye.